Hello, good morning. I am very tired. My body decided that I was not allowed to get much sleep, so I'm running on next to no sleep, and I've got work in about an hour, so I'm gonna spend some time streaming and working on my commission. I did find out something that was incredibly useful in the painting scheme of these armatures, and that is that the way I was going to do it is not the way I need to. The client did not want to have the main body parts all silver, all metallic, so it turns out that I do not need to paint all of the non-brown parts on his body metallic. Instead, what he wants me to do is what I was hoping, which is paint it all black and then give it a nice dry brush of metallic. So hopefully that will help speed up the process a little bit, and that will make life considerably easier for me. In the meantime, I need to refill this a little bit. No, I don't. It's going to be fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue working on them. I have airbrushed these guys, which I did not do on stream because I don't remember why. I think I just ran out of time. But this guy, other than his trim and getting some of those parts airbrushed, he's close to being done, and I'm pretty happy with how he's turning out. I think the other armature is getting in the way of the camera, so we're going to move him off to the side where he can't be a disruption. The camera does not like it. I also unfortunately found out that my I don't have the right magnets to magnetize these guys, so I'm going to have to do that a little later. One thing though that I can do and that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint as much as I can on these guys in that metallic trim, so that I can go back and dry brush them potentially when I get home, if my mental state allows it, because I don't know if it's the blood thinners or just my brain, but I'm not sleeping well, and it's definitely affecting my ability to think and reason. Actually, you know what? I don't want to mess up the wet palette today. Not right now. Mayhaps later. So I'm going to go ahead and put the black paint I'm going to be using, which is a craft paint, there. And I'm also, what is this? This is a slow dry paint. No, I don't really need that. I can mix up some medium. There we go. Pour some medium in there. That makes maybe 1 to 1 of the medium. There we go. One more. There we go. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to get to work. Now, possibly one of my favorite things is that I did some cleaning of the house yesterday with my wife, and I found a whole ton of these, because apparently I bought them a long time ago, and then promptly forgot they existed. And what that means is that I now have like an extra $30 or $40 worth of brushes, probably more than that, and I can now use them. And while I would never really purchase Citadel brushes on my own because of the prohibitive cost of a Citadel brush, I have no qualms about using a Citadel brush if it's free, because their brushes are decent quality, don't get me wrong. They're just not worth the $15, $20 that you normally have to spend on a Citadel brush. So, I'm going to go ahead and paint stuff now. Hopefully I'll be coherent, somewhat, and not in such a bad situation that you guys are like, oh dear, Ben Repaints needs to stop. Now, I will say, I have not used a good Citadel paintbrush in many a year at this point. The only one I've been using is the really bad starter brush, which you guys have seen looks pretty rough. So I can't really give you any information. Let me find, where's my old Citadel brush? Where's my crappy one? There it is. So, we can do this. This is the state of the Citadel brush that I've been using. And you can see that it's definitely needs some love. And this is the Citadel brush that I'm trying to use, which was not treated well, and you can probably tell is already like flaring and splitting really bad. But that's okay, because I don't need a good brush. I just need something that I'm not really worried about messing up. So that's what's happening. And I'm gonna go ahead and use this to paint up this lad, who I'm now wishing I did not put his head on this thing because I can't get behind it very well. Though I guess the good news is, as with everything else, if you can't see it, neither can the other people at the table, so it does not matter. I will emphasize, and I'll say it many a time, one of the best things about painting larger models is usually they have so much going on that unless you do an egregiously bad job, people are not going to notice the little mistakes you make. You know what I mean? So you can afford to be a little sloppier, you can afford to be a little less precise with your painting. And as long as you go back and clean it up a bit, no one will ever know. Unless, of course, they're judged for a competition piece, but that's a whole nother story. You can find corner cases all over the place. But yeah, all I'm going to do right now is get this guy painted down, probably with a little more water than I'm currently using, and hit him in all the spots where he could use a bit more darkness to him. And the other good part about this is if I don't hit enough, like it doesn't end up looking too good, I have a dark wash that I'm going to throw over this guy, and that dark wash is going to do wonders for making his mechanical bits look well loved and well used. So I'm not overly worried about a perfect paint job even in that aspect. So let's go ahead and hit all that. Let's hit all the stuff in the back. I probably should actually go back and paint that Mechanicus logo the right colors, because they have the half skull thing. Though I don't know if they'll necessarily need to do that for this. Okay, this, I will say, I am pretty impressed with how much paint this Citadel brush is holding. Because one of the things I hate the most about some of the other brushes is that because they have such a smaller body, a smaller belly to them, they don't hold enough paint for my liking. And I end up having to go back to the well, as you say, more often than not. And when I do have it, it ends up drying really quickly. And obviously that can be very frustrating when you're painting larger swaths of a model. But that can do what it needs to do. I will say this is going to be a neat looking model when it's done. The color scheme that the client chose was dead on. It's really cool looking, and with the base that he's already made as inspiration for the other one, he's going to have some really neat looking bases too. Because he's already got one with all the terrain and everything on it. And I'm going to kind of dress off of that for the one I do when I base up this specific model. So overall, it's going to be a great looking pair of armatures that, in all honesty, did not take a whole lot of time. I probably still severely undercharged how much time I'm going to put into them, but I also got to say, I'm not blaming the client in the least, because first of all, I'm the one who set the prices. He took advantage of that, which he should have. But secondly, he was very clear about the level of detail he wanted, and if I can't follow those directions, those are my fault, right? But that's neither here nor there. I'm kind of rambly because, like I said, I've mentioned it last time, but I'm on some new medication. I'm on some blood thinners, and they're definitely making me super loopy. And one of the side effects of them was fatigue and dizziness. So thankfully, no dizziness, but I'm definitely feeling the effects on my energy levels and my ability to brain. But that's neither here nor there. Just know that is the reason why I'm probably sounding a little loopy, because I am a little loopy. It is very much affecting that. I was yesterday, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I was yesterday going to get into a highly, highly controversial topic, but it just never found a good segue into it, because so many other things started coming up. And I gotta say, getting rated, I got rated yesterday, which I know it's like, yeah, that's what happens on Twitch. People raid other people. It's like, yeah, okay, but I still have like this self-image when it comes to Twitch and streaming and just in general, that like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a little guy. So I'm just one of the people in the audience. I'm never the person on stage. You know what I mean? So getting rated and being recognized by these people that I look up to and watch, it still gets me kind of starstruck. So I was pretty jazzed when a bunch of people rated my channel and were like, "Hey, what's this weirdo doing?" I was like, "Yes, I am that weirdo. What am I doing?" But anyway, that ended up happening, and so that severely distracted me, and I was not able to get on this highly controversial topic. But it is one that I'm almost afraid to broach, because it's like, do I really want to bring this kind of storm down on my channel? And I have decided, after much consideration, yes, I'm going to make a hot take, or at least introduce a hot take. And I'm very curious to see what other people think. And that question, that controversial hot take question is, sorry for all the build-up, guys. It's not real. It's just I'm being facetious. Subs or dubs when it comes to watching foreign films, anime, whatever? Do you guys prefer subtitles or dub titles? And of course, by that I mean, translate, or like voice acting in the native language that you are watching the show in. Because I have a friend, and he's a very good friend, and he used to be a lot more like pushy than he is now, and assertive in ways that were kind of a bit too aggressive. But he's definitely grown as a person, which is awesome. But one thing that is his hill to die on, who will not budge on this, is that, like, there are objectively better subs, and there are objectively better dubs. And it's like, okay, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from, but well, man, everyone grows up with their own preferences, right? And there's a lot of nostalgia and personal bias that goes into that statement. And one of the ones he brings up constantly as an objective better is that All Might in My Hero Academia, specifically My Hero Academia, is objectively better than the sub of All Might, like the original voice actor for All Might. And it's like, you're allowed to have that opinion, But you're not allowed to. I don't feel like you should be shouting other people down when they argue that no, the, that the dub of All Might, or the sub of All Might, the original voice actor for All Might is better than Christopher Sabat. And I know at this point I'm also dating myself because, first of all, I'm talking about Christopher Sabat and All Might, which from many seasons ago, many years ago. So I apologize for being old, but like, he always brings up the United States of Smash scene against All for One as his example. And it's like, yeah, that's a great scene. It's an iconic scene. But as far as he's concerned, the Japanese version of that scene does not hold a candle to the American version of that scene. And I've heard both. And his argument is that Japanese All Might sounds like an old man, an old lady, like screeching out United States of Smash. And I can see where he's coming from, because he didn't watch the sub at all. He didn't watch the original voice acting. He watched the entire show in English, because he doesn't like to have to read subtitles while he's watching a show. And that's also fair. Some people don't want to be distracted by all the text floating around at the bottom, and trying to use that to decipher what the heck is going on screen. And it's like, that's fair. That's cool. I'm not shaming him. I don't ever want to shame anyone for preferring a certain way to watch things. Especially when it's a preference like that. It's like, yeah, some people just don't want to have to read and watch. And, you know, if you're going to argue, well, then read faster. That's I want to say that's ableist. I'm not sure if that's the proper term, but it really definitely is callous and mean-spirited, because some people can't read as fast, and that's just their thing, right? But anyway, sorry for getting off topic on a topic that is clearly a hot topic from like 6 years ago. He's done that. He has both clips saved specifically so he can pull them out and prove people wrong. That I don't think he has them saved anymore. He might be able to find them on YouTube really quickly. But his argument is that the Japanese All Might sounds too shrill and doesn't convey the same kind of weight behind their United States of Smash as the English dub of All Might. And he didn't watch the dub at all, or the sub at all. He's only watched the dub. Hey, Toby Kofi. Just pause every time you need to read. I mean, yeah, but that's also kind of a massive inconvenience for some people. I keep calling you Toby Kofi now because I heard Swift call you that, but it's Tobacco Kofi. But yeah, you can do that, but that really disrupts the flow of the show, doesn't it? So again, I grew up an avid reader, and I also grew up having to need captions because my room was next to my parents' room, and so they obviously did not want to hear things while they were trying to sleep. So I would have to, I don't even know what you're talking about, I just assume it's anime. It is anime. I have a friend, and this kind of came back up again, who swears up and down that, I mean, he'll say, you know, it's all subjective, that some people like subtitles, some people like dubs, and in some cases, some are clearly better than the other. And it's like, okay, that's a valid point to make, I guess. But he swears up and down that the English dub of All Might giving the United States of Smash is objectively better than the Japanese version of All Might using the United States of Smash. And once again, I know that I'm dating myself with this very old, at this point it's almost a half decade old, which messes with me, because what is time anymore? But this is something that he will not let die. Whenever anything about subs versus dubs is brought up, this is what he goes to. And I'm being as forgiving, I'll call it, as possible, I guess, because, you know, some people don't like to read the subtitles. Some people want to be able to understand what's going on without having to put in a whole lot of extra effort, right? And that's fine. That's their prerogative. But he will basically shout down anyone who disagrees with him, and he'll pull up both of them just in isolation and play them both back to back and be like, tell me clearly which one is better. And if you honestly think it's the Japanese one, you know, blah 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 blah. He's hyper aggressive about this thing. And first of all, it's like, calm down. It's an anime. It's a cartoon, man. You don't need to be so... I mean, I don't know if he does it for comedy, or if he does it because he's clearly this defensive about it. But, it's just like, it's okay. I promise you. The end of the world is not going to happen because someone likes the Japanese version of something more than the English version of something, or vice versa. But, I'm not really willing to turn this into an argument with this individual, because they're a close friend, and, in a lot of ways, they've had to do a lot of emotional growth over the past few years. I can't say that as someone who, for a while, cosplayed as One Punch Man because, I was like the perfect height, weight, and build for it. Like, person knows that I love the anime, so he would immediately call my bluff, and then I would feel bad. Fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like because of his reticence to watch the dubbed anime, or the subtitled, or the subbed anime, he's missing out on a lot of context for why that All Might sounds like that. That, and I will disagree with him solely on the fact that All Might is played by Muhammad Avdol's voice actor, and that man has a voice like a god. Because Muhammad Avdol, despite dying twice, is the coolest character in Stardust Crusaders, which is its own can of worms that I don't want to get into, because I'm partially delirious right now. I woke up at 4 a.m. because my body said I needed to wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm on the blood thinners. Most TV is subbed with the exception of children's media or things made in Finland. I mean, that makes sense, I guess. In America, we're too dumb to read. I feel real bad saying that because it's just so immediately callous, but Americans, you know, we're fairly limited with our cultural experiences, and since we have this idea that all cartoons are for children, a lot of things that were brought over here are immediately dubbed because no one's gonna watch it if they've got to read. We have the Finnish Digimon dub. I would be curious to hear that. When I was in middle school, that's when Digimon first came out over here, because I'm old. But I remember thinking as a kid that this is going to be the next Pokemon. That, like, this show is really cool and has a lot of cool things going for it, and it's built specifically for marketing. And I was wrong. It never became the next Pokemon, but it definitely has that hardcore following. And I watched like a half dozen episodes of it, and I remember liking it well enough, and then getting really excited when I realized that there was a hardcore group of fans who love it. Because, like how Swift has gotten into Drawfee. Oh dear, here we go. I don't know if I can show this on stream, so I'm just gonna go find it and play it and laugh, cry. Agapio Racing Team in Kencampia. I'm so sorry for messing that up. I don't know what I'm looking. Here we go. No. Why do they sound so bored? I'm saving this. I'm so saving this. Thank you for this blessed moment. The only thing I can think of is that I do not like this for dub reasons. That's absolutely fair. I will be honest though, that kind of circles all the way back to absolutely amazing. So I'm sorry that was the quality that you had to grow up with, but I'm also not sorry because that's amazing. I don't know how much work you've done with audio equipment, but because I'm friends with someone who is an AV guy, he's a musician, and so he has a very intimate understanding of audio equipment. I've learned a little over the last few years, and I immediately recognized like everything that was wrong with the audio there. And I wonder how much of this was because it was a small scale project that got very limited funding. Because, you know, it's a kid's show. Who cares about kid's show? Just do what you can to make it watchable so we can make money off of it. But man, they needed some help. it really sounds like it was recorded in someone's office using the mic available to them. It was that it's a kid show for a small demographic. Yeah, and that's the worst part, because like the English dub of it, I remember being cheesy, but not low quality, if you know what I mean. I remember laughing a little bit because of how they dubbed some of the lines. It just sounded like an Invader Zim bit, but it was definitely not. Their dubs are usually way better. Very cool. I gotta say, and this is definitely coming from a very weird place, because of just, you know, being American and realizing that one of my favorite things about like the internet community being a thing, and learning about different cultures and getting to talk to different people, is that I obviously have a very strong American bias on how things work. You know what I mean? And so, for example, I don't think of countries being close enough that you can just kind of wander over and be like, oh yeah, they do X, Y, Z differently. Because the United States is so damn big that it's just like, and you know, I've got that America-centric bias. It's just like, oh, this is how things are done in America, and that's all I need to care about. We don't really think about what Mexico or Canada is doing, because America is so kind of self-centered and self-reflective. Well, not reflective, I hate to say that, because we are not reflective people. But yeah, it's just so hearing about like I think I was talking to Pilkey about getting some credit card fraud, and being really frustrated that even though it was the next state over and they just kind of let it happen, it's like, guys, the next state over is 400 miles away. You know, you should have recognized something was wrong when they did a credit card charge for $150 in Virginia Beach, and then another one in West Virginia. That is a whole state over. And in the United States, on the East Coast, a whole state over is, you know, a 6-hour drive. So I was really frustrated that I had to deal with that, because that was right around winter time, when I really needed my my card so I could actually buy gifts for my friends and buy the stuff I needed to do Friend Feast. But and so it gives me a very you know, very biased perspective, a very limited perspective on some things that you guys consider normal. And so it's really neat hearing people from Europe and in some cases Asia, and in one case actually Mexico, talk about these kind of things, because they're things I don't think about. Also, you probably don't know, but I found a ton. I was cleaning out stuff. Yeah, countries here are so small. Yeah, I mean, you guys had a much longer chance for your cultures to crystallize, and so they're a lot more distinct that way, right? America just kind of went, yeah, we're here now, and pushed everyone else out, and we have not had those centuries for the cultures to decide this, that, or the other under independent rule. We had one civil war and it didn't end well. Not for the South, at least, though they kind of deserve that. Okay, so the next thing, what else do I need to do? I'm kind of at an impasse, because I can drive to Sweden or Russia in a day, take the boat over to Estonia, and be there in a couple of hours. Yeah, no, that ain't happening. Not in Virginia. Like, my wife and I went to Northern Virginia. We went up to D.C., the nation's capital, right? From where we live in Roanoke. And let me see, I believe the drive was 4.5 hours. So that was just to go once less than a state over, right? Because Roanoke is on the southwestern part, not even to the tip, just the southwestern quarter of Virginia. And we went up to the north, not even the northeastern corner, but the northern corner. So we basically traveled like half the state. To get to Virginia Beach, which is on the opposite side of the state, it's like 6.5 hours. And you know, my wife is actually, she got into a convention called C2E2, which is in, I believe, Chicago. And it's going to take her like 12 hours to drive there. And it's just like, Jiminy Christmas. At that point, why don't you just get a plane ticket? And the answer is, plane tickets are freaking expensive. So it's much more cost effective for her to just drive there. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to join her because I've taken more than enough sick days off work to help. And I don't really feel comfortable taking more. But I'll have to double check that. I'll have to look at it again. I'm so scattered right now. Did I finish my thought about the brushes? I found these Games Workshop brushes. I was cleaning out stuff in the guest room because we moved into a new house year and a half ago. And we've been kind of halfway unpacking for most of it because we need more storage. We need more shelving units and whatnot because we lost a couple of hobby rooms. There's some hobby space. And so I had some things stowed away that I didn't realize were stowed away, and I brought them downstairs where I do my painting and whatnot. And one of those things I found was a ton of Games Workshop brushes. And they're normally like 15 to 20 United States dollars. And so I found almost $100 of Games Workshop brushes just sitting there in storage. So I went, okay, and until I need my Winsor & Newtons, I'm going to go ahead and just use these for a bit, because I haven't used a Games Workshop brush at this point in years. And I'm curious if they're as frustrating as I remember them being. And what I'm finding so far is no, they're actually not half bad. My only problem with them is that they're really expensive. And that must have really shaded how I use them. But yeah, like this is just a small basing brush. It's their smallest size for basing. And I can't say I'm too mad at it. My understanding is that they use like a combination of Kolinsky sable and some synthetic furs for this brush, which would explain the curling at the tip that's already happening. Set up some crafting space, see if I can get the painting minis. It's a lot of fun. It kind of, like, a lot of people have consternation about it because they start their first mini and then they panic, like, oh, I want it to look good. I want it to look really good and really detailed. So they spend a lot of time working on it. And this is me too, by the way. I was really fastidious about trying to make my minis look great. There's War Machine minis and some Tau stuff that might be somewhere. I mean, those are perfect things to paint. I started with Dungeons and Dragons minis. And for the longest time, I thought like the Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures that were pre-primed were as detailed as you could get. And when you look at them now, they're not. The prime job on them is terrible. They just dip them in some primer, and it's got all sorts of chipping and flashing on it. They're really bad. But yeah. Painting, a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I mean, clearly I made a whole streaming channel for it, but I highly recommend it to anyone who wants a hobby that they can just unwind to. Because this got me through the pandemic. This and my wife. Which I'm glad to report I finally got her back into painting. Not through like pestering or hectoring or being mean or anything like that. It was just, she's always loved painting D&D minis and kind of got away from it because the way her stuff was packed, she just didn't have easy access to it. And so I gathered all of her things while I was cleaning yesterday, and I put it all in one consolidated place. Like all of her dinosaur minis are in one magnetic carrying case that I made, and she has these cool Dungeons and Doggos and Kittens and Catacombs minis. Yeah, that's kind of what this is. Or it would be if I wasn't married. But for me, it's in the morning. It allows me to kind of settle into the day, and when I get back from work, because I'm usually very tense coming home from having to be incredibly patient with kids with bad attitudes, and so this helps me just kind of wind down and decompress. And Pilkey, up until he got a little behind on like his overlay and whatnot, that's what he would do too. He was painting up a bunch of Leagues of Votan, the Space Dwarves. And he decided that he wanted to listen to my channel because just had, I guess, chill vibes that allowed him to settle down before he headed off to bed. And I'm happy that I was able to provide that service. So yeah, if you have a dedicated workspace that reduces the friction of getting started, I would strongly recommend doing the miniature painting. I'm also beginning to understand why Games Workshop designed these brushes the way they did, because this is their small basing brush. So I think this is meant to be used on their smaller minis, like their regular troops. And other than the fact that this one is partially destroyed from poor use before I refound the thing, I'm really impressed with it. The belly holds a lot of paint. It's got a fine enough tip for detail work until you do something like that. I'm pretty happy with this thing. I'm even happier that the money was spent years ago and I don't have to think about it. Okay. And I'll go ahead and get his face. Oh, did I not get his... No, I did, just not well. Yeah, you guys can tell. I love this stuff. I love doing it. I love talking about it. If the interest is high enough, I can spend way too much time just ranting incoherently about the Horus Heresy and about 40k. Well, technically 30k. I don't know enough about 40k. But I really enjoy this. And I feel bad that there's so many people that really hate what Games Workshop is doing and where they're going with everything. And, you know, there's always going to be people that are upset because it's changing and they don't want it to change, at least not in that way. But I'm having an immense amount of fun. And at some point, I'll be brave enough to venture out and do things like War Machine and Corvus Belli's Infinity. I can't remember the name of the game, but it looks really cool. They've got some cool minis. I want to do more than just Games Workshop. That's fine. I mean, I don't actually like playing Warhammer a whole lot, to be completely honest. I find the game, especially in its current edition, it bogs down really badly, and there's a ton of things you gotta remember to play a game halfway coherently. When they came out with 8th edition back in like 2020? No, 2017, I think. Don't quote me on that, because I'm bad with numbers. Battletech unpainted or painted? They do unpainted. So, you get to paint them. But, yeah. When Warhammer 8th edition came out, it was meant as a vast simplification, streamlining of Warhammer, because 7th edition had that problem, where it was just way too complicated, and it was actively detracting from enjoyment of the game, right? So they streamlined it with 8th edition and got rid of a lot of these little things that made the game less fun to play and more complicated, and it was a huge success. And then when they introduced 9th edition, instead of keeping the game at its relative level of complexity, they started strengthening the different armies against each other, right? And the way they tested the game, apparently, was they would test new armies against the most recent codex releases, and that just led to an eventual amping up of the power levels of each of the armies. And that's clearly a problem, because that meant that as you got further away from a codex release date, your armies diminished in power. Because like the Death Guard, which are the Chaos Space Marines that serve Nurgle, the god of rot, they started out 9th edition fairly powerful because they were an early release, and they had some really good tournament numbers, and they were one of the best to play in tournaments. And as we've gotten further and further away, it's power creep all the way down. Exactly. And yeah, like recently, there's a guy named Auspex Tactics who does very in-depth but very easy to like digest videos about unit analysis and competitive rankings and whatnot, and new news for the game. He's basically does glorified slideshows, right? And but the thing is, he gets them out so quickly and so concise that people really like them. But he did one that's like a rankings list for the new campaign, which is called Arcs of Omen, and the Death Guard went from being one of the best armies at the beginning of the game's release to the worst army. And it's not because of anything they did, it's because of how all the other armies evolved and got pushed around them, right? And so that's kind of frustrating, and it's one of the reasons why I stopped playing, is that it was just really frustrating knowing that there were rules that were going to be released within a few months that were going to completely hamstring your army. And I don't even play competitively. It's just like my friends and I liked to keep up with that news, but they got tired of it, to be honest. One of them, he hates having to do all of that, the number crunching and the statistician stuff and the figuring out and the revising, because it just feels like extra work when all he wants to do is play the game, right? And that's actually what got him out of Magic, because me and the friends who played were really into the new mechanics, and oh, have you seen this card? It does XYZ, and you can build a deck around it that with this card and that card. He hates the theory crafting. That's the absolute worst thing for him, is just talking about arbitrary numbers and proper nouns and never actually playing the game. And whenever he would play the game, there'd be so many different things that he'd now have to keep track of that he just threw his hands up and said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And I get it. That's a lot to have to worry about when this is supposed to be an enjoyable pastime, right? And so, yeah. Gotta make their money, right? And the other part about it was that each individual army has become so complex to operate that you feel more like you're keeping record. You're playing a game of record keeping versus playing a game of war. You know what I mean? Like same person, same friend. He plays Adeptus Mechanicus, which are like the machine cult. They're the guys who believe in the Omnissiah with the red robes, and most of them are like 90% mechanical because they all want to get closer to God, their god, which is a machine god. MechWarrior Online, War Thunder, Warframe. Yeah, exactly. And even that's not fun because, okay, great, you've got a tournament list and you can beat them, and then they're going to get a tournament list and then they can beat you, but you now have to buy all these minis and do this, that, the other. And that's part of why I got a 3D printer. I got tired of buying minis because they're so expensive. But it's just like the game stops being fun when it becomes a race to who can find and get the most powerful meta army before anyone else, right? And that's what kind of killed Magic for him too, was he couldn't keep up with the competitive aspect of it, especially since he's a father with 2 kids. And so he just kind of gave up. But like, I want to get a 3D printer, but need some other stuff first. That's fair. 3D printers are expensive, and they're their own hobby. You know what I mean? They're lowering in price, and they're becoming far more affordable. But they themselves are their own hobby. You can't just have a 3D printer. You've got to have a room for the 3D printer, and having a wash and cure state. You got to have accessories for it: the wash and cure station, the extra resin, the IPA, a place to store your resin. You know. A proper air filtration system so you don't kill yourself, all sorts of stuff. And so I do recommend getting one if you like that kind of thing, if you like printing and modeling. AC unit for my second floor is going to set you back 3,000 euros. Yeah, tell me about it. Our AC unit, when we moved into this new house, this house was built in 1937, it's about to go. And so it's going to cost us about the same price, actually. I don't think it translates perfectly. 8,000, not 100, 8,000 United States dollars, which I think in euros is about 4,000 euro. So that's going to be a cost. I have that money set aside from when I first purchased the house and sold my previous one, but that doesn't make that financial ping hurt any less. Almost one to it. Oh boy, good fun. But yeah, I'm replacing a whole house unit, so it's going to be pricey, but it's going to be worth it because I'm not going to have to worry about it for until I'm like in my 50s. But that's actually part of why I started upping the commissions. And like my desire to do them is that I want to have more money. And I want to spend that money on things I enjoy, because otherwise I'm going to lose my mind. I have it downstairs, but all my computers and computers upstairs, it gets up to 30 degrees Celsius. No, thank you. No, stop that. Don't die from dehydration, please. So yeah, that AC unit is going to improve your quality of life greatly, and I hope that it does. Okay, this guy for the most part is painted up. So the next thing I need to do, the next thing I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, you can be dehydrated and overhydrated. That makes sense. I figure that like it would be part of your body just getting way too much, and part of your body still needing or still having way too little. I don't actually know what the condition. Like, I understand what being dehydrated and overhydrated is, but I don't exactly understand the condition. I know that you don't have enough water versus having too much water in your system, but on a physiological level, what exactly is going on in there, you know? Okay, now, sports drinks in the summer because otherwise I can't get hydrated. Yeah, it's because you're missing the electrolytes and the salt, basically, in your system. So if you just drink water, you're going to have that... Oh my god, what is it called? You're going to upset the balance in your body without having the electrolytes. So you're basically going to waterlog yourself. There was a woman like 20 years ago who died in the United States because it was back when the Wii first came out and was a big freaking deal. And they had a contest, just like a local contest called Hold Your Wii for the Wii. And it was a water drinking contest. And a woman really wanted to win the Nintendo Wii. And so she drank an incredible amount of water and then friggin' died. And I feel bad for very obvious reason. A person is dead. But at the same time, their child now has had to live with the fact that their mom died trying to win them a video game console. And of course, it was poorly thought out, like many things. So, one moment. This one goes with that one. This one goes with that one. So it really... No, that one does not go with that one. This one goes here because it crosses. This one goes here. So... very unfortunate situation, but it again is because people don't know their biology too well. Please fit. Thank you. Ah, the cowling is done. And now he has a hood. What that also means is that I can put the hood on this guy. But yeah, a little tip that a friend gave me. What are we talking about with biology? Tobacco Fee is getting a new AC unit, which is super cool. Dang it, I put the wrong one on. I put the... And, get a snail on it there. We were talking about being overhydrated and dehydrated at the same time. And a woman in the United States about 15-20 years ago died because of that. She was part of a drinking challenge to win a Nintendo Wii. And she drank so much water that she... upset the pH balance in her system and died. Come on, fit. That fits. And it was because we don't, I guess when they made the thing up, they didn't... Yeah, she flushed out her electrolytes. I'm glad someone else recognizes that. Yeah, we need to do a better job of reminding people that knowledge is power. Okay, so... stated this already, but I'll restate it anyway. Found out from the client that he is perfectly okay and encourages that I paint a lot of the quote-unquote metal parts black and then dry brush them with a metallic. You have a bachelor in biology, so you should know. Yeah, definitely. But we have way too many people who just kind of slept their way through high school and passed with, that gentlemanly C. And so they don't recognize these kind of things because we have a de-emphasis of education in this country. But, I say as a school teacher, like, I know you can't shame kids into caring about this kind of knowledge when to them it has no real life application. But it would be cool if we just had more of a culture of, not shaming people who are too smart, so we shouldn't elect them. If they're that intelligent, they're obviously up to something. But no, they just got a good education. But anyway, sorry about that. I'm a little loopy. Found out from the client that he encourages the method I was going to use, which is painting these guys up in black in the metal parts and then dry brushing with a metallic. So that's what's going to happen. It'd be Monday. I woke up at 4 a.m. and I am on blood thinners. So like everything that could be messing with my mental state right now is messing with my mental state. I guess the one big positive I could say out of this is, despite all that, I'm still a chipper person who wants the best for everyone. Want everyone to be happy. Happiness is not overrated. Okay. Actually, I think both of these guys are done enough that I can start attaching bits and bobs and hit them with a wash. And then, goodness, I forgot about this. And then I can go ahead and then start doing the highlights. Now, if I remember right, this goes right here. Yes, this goes right here. No, I can't do these guys because this one in particular, I'm gonna move him out of the way. This one in particular I hecked up on because every other part of him is left oriented except for his armor, his carapace. Or not his carapace. Carapace is fine. See, this is what I mean by I'm tired. Wait, is it fine? It is not fine. It's right oriented. Just like this guy. So what I need to do is for the carapace and the thigh guards, I need to go ahead and repaint those so that they're opposite. They're flipped. So what I think I'm gonna do is, and this one's been a hot mess. This is the one whose arm joints as well I hecked up because I was told, yes, please magnetize them. So I managed to like twist this one off and this popped open, and so it came out fine, and now I can chop that off and put a magnet on. And I figured, oh, it's just in there real good. So I tried twisting this one off and hoping it popped open, and instead it broke. But that's fine because it's going to be magnetized. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to put this guy over to the side. And I'm going to look at the clock, realize that it's almost 7:30, and that if I want to get to work at an early enough time, I probably ought to get going. So thank you very much for joining me, guys. I do greatly appreciate the company, and hope that this has been an entertaining stream. I am closing in on finishing this guy. I overpredicted. I figured I could get him done by Tuesday, and then, I broke him. So it's going to be a little bit longer, but hopefully, well, actually, the client was like, I'm not going to have enough money to pay you in full soon, so we did some up front and then some on retrieval of the unit. So this probably works out better. Sorry, I'm cleaning my brushes. But this might work out better for the client. I'd like to get paid soon, but if he doesn't have the money to pay me yet, then I can't exactly demand payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean out this brush, which is really got gunk in it. Break a few legs. I could do that, but then I wouldn't get very many clients because I don't think anyone wants a few broken legs over missed payments on a 3D print or on a paint job. Like, I have the skills. I've been taking martial arts for pretty much my entire life, and one of those martial arts specialized in limb breaking, so I could do that. And even though it kind of is a fantasy martial art because it was Aikido, I also took one martial art that was far more practical in boxing for about 6 years. So I definitely know how to do these things, but I don't think that would be very good customer service. Because that customer would be serviced with a medical bill after I broke his legs, and then he wouldn't really be able to pay me because all of his money would go to that. That is true, unless the martial art is baseball bat fu, right? Okay. Let's see. There we go. Hopefully this point will hold up. And Sledgehammers. Yep, I got 2 of those in the garage because I live in the United States and I live in an old house that has a 2-car garage. Some sledgehammers, got some crowbars, got many smaller hammers. I got a chainsaw, so if I really need to, I can attach that to the sledgehammer and make a Space Marine weapon and scare the living crap out of them. But I don't think I'm going to do that. It's funny, but not nice. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess. And then probably I bought the biggest crowbar for my house I could find. As you should. Pry bars are ridiculous. I mean, they're depending on the type, it might be called a pry bar. My father was a remodeling contractor, so I've learned way too much about like terminology, and unfortunately it's muddled my brain. Yeah, I know, right? It's like buying that giant wrench that you always see that plumbers have, and then realizing that you can't use that wrench on anything because it's meant for the absolute biggest water lines. But what was I just thinking? Come on, brain. You can do things. Yeah, I've got a lot of remodeling equipment in my house, and so if anything breaks, I can at least attempt to rebuild it. Pry bar versus crowbar. Yeah. From what I understand, they're the same thing basically, but my father, with his semantics, decided that they needed to be named differently. And because I worked with 3 different people who all use 3 different terms, I don't know which one's correct anymore. I just know pry bar tends to be used for bigger ones. Well, no, wrecking bar is used for bigger ones. Pry bar is used for smaller ones. I guess it's that hot dog sandwich thing. Every hot dog is a sandwich, but every sandwich isn't a hot dog. I don't know. I might be making this up. I'm so tired. Welcome to Benry Paints, where we stare at a half-painted mini and then talk about the etymology of pry bar. Get me the thing. Yes. You know, the thing that does the thing. You use it to do the thing. You know what might be the greatest job of all time, though? And stop me if you've heard me about this before, but you know what might be the greatest job of all time? Naming appliances. Naming kitchen appliances. Because that job is so easy. All you do is you say what the thing does and add refrigerator, blender, toaster. Easy as pie, right? What does that thing do? Well, it keeps shit fresh. That's a fresher. I'm going on break. Yeah, see, that one didn't even need to have an added to the end of it. Microwave is perfectly fine. It probably was microwaver at some point, but someone didn't like how it sounded. There was a comedian in the early 2000s named Mitch Hedberg, and I always thought he was absolutely hilarious because his humor was timeless and dumb, and by and large inoffensive. He was just kind of a stoner who had very silly observations, and so that's one that has stuck out with me every time I see an appliance or get into an argument, discussion of semantics with someone. Okay. Now, probably the best part about today. Yeah, I don't think I ever heard anything. Maybe it was because he passed away before he could have any hot takes that made people mad. But I don't think I ever heard anything negative about the guy. He seemed to be pretty well loved. That being said, what am I doing? Putting things away. Oh yeah, I have a fun little mini quest that I've got to get done today. A student, I think I might have mentioned this in a previous stream. A student found out that I do 3D printing stuff, and she asked if I could print her an Elsa from Frozen. And generally it's like, I don't really want to, because that's time and effort I could be spending on other things. But then I found out that she's had a really, really, really rough life, and she's trying her best despite that. And so I decided, you know what, she's getting an Elsa. And so I found one, I printed it, I painted it. I did this all in about 2 hours. And I want to post a speed paint of it when I have time. But I was finally able to give it to her on Friday because I was in and out last week so much. And she was really excited for it because she normally doesn't get that kind of attention or or whatever when from authority figures. So she was excited. She took it over to her desk and kind of did her thing for the day. And then as I was going around and collecting papers, she turned to ask me something and immediately knocked it off the desk and broke it. And felt really bad about it and was about to get really upset until I told her that, no, it's okay. It's made out of resin, and resin reattaches really quick, really easily, and really cleanly. So you don't have to worry about it being broken. I can fix it. And I was able to calm her down. And so today I get to bring my painting kit with me so that I can reattach the head of Elsa with a little metal pin so that she's a little bit stronger. But yeah, I was just happy that I anticipated that. So the model I got of Elsa was it was a single print, like it was a single piece print. It was not meant to be it was meant to be printed on FDM, which tickled me to no end. But yeah, so like here it is. This is the model after I painted it. And you can see it's one solid piece, so you could have printed it on with an extruder and it would have been fine, but I printed it on in resin because I wanted it to be smaller so she could, stuff it in her backpack or whatever. But it snapped it right at the neck, and so that's going to be a really easy fix because I have that wow stick that I can just kind of drill a hole into the neck, drill a hole into the base of the head, and stick some paper clipping in there as support, and then glue it all back together, and it'll look great. So yeah, that made me happy that I prepared for it, I planned for it, the bad happened, and I was able to fix the bad. So with that being said, it's 7:34. I need to get off so that I can go upstairs and do my last minute preparations for work. Thank you again for joining me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I think I can stream tonight. I'm not sure. I might stream tomorrow, but in the late evening, I've got to do the boxing because I need to get back in shape. My cholesterol levels were too high, and my blood pressure was elevated, and that's why I'm on blood thinners. But I think because I didn't do a fasting blood test, those numbers were off, and they gave me a medication that is just making me loopy. So that being said, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of your days and evenings, and thank you very much again. Bye-bye.